Welcome to a Between Bites Piecemeal episode. Piecemeal is a podcast hosted by the Emily Program, and Between Bites are short episodes addressing topics you want to know more about. Piecemeal covers topics related to eating disorders, body image, and how society may influence our thinking. Please use your discretion when listening and reach out for support as needed. I'm your host, Jillian Lampert, and for Between Bites, you get just me. Welcome. Today's topic is really geared towards Pride Month. Eating disorders in the LGBTQIA plus community. Why is this community more vulnerable to eating disorders? We're going to dive into that, as well as ways the Emily program provides culturally competent, gender affirming care, which is so important. So let's dive into why are eating disorders something we should think about the same or differently in the LGBTQIA plus community as we do in other communities. And the reason we need to think about it differently is that we know that adolescents and adults in this community experience greater incidence of eating disorders and disordered eating behaviors than their heterosexual and cisgender counterparts. It's important to dive into why that is. We know that body dissatisfaction and social pressures lead many people to change the way they eat to impact their shape and size, whether to be thinner, leaner, more muscular, or some other body ideal. For people in the LGBTQIA plus community, body image norms are just as powerful and perhaps even more so, given that body dissatisfaction is often a core stressor experienced by transgender people and other folks in the community. And individuals also might face unique pressures in addition to body dissatisfaction, pressures like social stigma, discrimination, internalized negativity. Those all increase their risk. And we know that discrimination increases risk of mental health conditions as people feel unsafe and not accepted in the world and maybe in the body they inhabit. So we need to think about all of those things in addition to, we need to think about the whole age range. While we tend to think of young people when we think of eating disorders, we need to expand our thinking to include adults of all ages across all communities. But research shows that LGBTQ plus IA adults are more than twice as likely as their straight cisgender peers to experience an eating disorder in their lifetime. So it's not just the kids or the adolescents or the young people in this community. For folks that parent, they have an additional challenge of raising children with body pride while they themselves might struggle with it. So how do you care for yourself when you're how do you care for others when you're still learning to care for yourself? Many questions we could be asking, and there are a number of pieces in the literature that have reviewed these topics. We think a lot about this family program. How do we provide care that is individualized and personalized for each person that walks through our door? And particularly, how do we provide care for folks that we know are at higher risk or in unique situations? One of the particular clinical challenges in caring for transgender youth, for example, with eating disorders, is the standard use of growth charts based on sex. That doesn't work in the same straightforward way, or potentially the same straightforward way as it does for cisgender youth. So we really need to think about that from a treatment perspective of how do we use growth charts to inform our thinking around treatment while not overly relying on a growth chart that may not fit the individual in front of us. We know that gender dysphoria treatment has been shown to increase body satisfaction. That's an important and repeated finding. We know that finding care that affirms identity and understands these experiences is crucial. Many LGBTQ plus people thrive in treatment environments where their gender and sexuality are respected, where pronouns are correct, body dysphoria is handled sensitively, and diverse recovery stories are welcome and told. This kind of inclusive care, we know, breaks down barriers and fosters trust, enabling individuals to share struggles without fear of judgment. So while we know that the risk is higher and the rates of eating disorders are higher among this population, we also know that the good news is that inclusive personalized care is out there, and eating disorders are treatable mental health conditions that can go away with appropriate and prolonged supported care and community support. Eating disorders in the LGBTQ plus community deserve greater visibility and understanding. Research in healthcare has to evolve to meet these diverse needs. We know recovery is possible with care that truly sees and supports every individual. So this Pride Month, as every Pride Month, visibility means more than rainbow flags. It means acknowledging often overlooked issues that impact lives deeply. Eating disorders don't discriminate, and neither should recovery. We know healing is possible, and we know, again, with the right support, Someone with an eating disorder can get well, and they don't need to leave any part of themselves behind to heal. So a bit about treatment before we wrap up. Treatment is critical. Affirming care is essential. What does that look like? Affirming care means intentional, vocal, visible support for an individual's identity. It's validating, it's assumption-free, it's deeply respectful. Affirming care goes beyond tolerance. We really want to embrace and uplift people in who they are. And we also want to acknowledge the harmful effects of all of the structural experiences that often people experience. They experience discrimination. They experience discrimination based on appearance or on their gender identity or their sexual orientation. We know at the Emily program that affirming care is life-saving care. We know that the data are really pretty clear that LGBTQ plus individuals face heightened risks of depression, anxiety, suicidality. We know that, for example, trans youth have much higher rates of considering suicide and much higher rates of attempted suicide. We also know research consistently shows that affirming interventions like correct name and pronoun use, access to appropriate affirming informed medical care, and family and community support drastically reduce those risks. We need to be part of reducing those risks. Affirming care also means designing systems that reflect the respect we have for people, like assigning roommates in residential treatment based on gender identity, not sex assigned at birth, fostering cultural humility and training throughout our staff and our practices. This kind of individualized treatment planning addresses eating disorder recovery, gender identity support. Staff training needs to include training on microaggression awareness, inclusive communication, accountability practices. The physical environment needs to consider how bathrooms are labeled and what kinds of advocacy can be done with, for example, landlords for inclusive signage. Not all programs can change the signs on the wall by themselves. They need to work with landlords of the buildings they are occupying in order to do that. Treatment plan integration also needs to support people in wherever they are with their gender or sexuality journey in terms of conversations with family, with spouses, with roommates. That's really important to include in their care plan as needed. And then community resource connection. We need to link people to gender affirming services beyond the expertise of our treatment programs. We do that at the Emily program where we link people to gender affirming services that are outside of our scope, but we really want people to feel supported in their community because we know that working together and learning together, we really can make the world a better place for people with eating disorders and hopefully a place where fewer people experience the conditions that influence the development of eating disorders. So I'll leave you with a question in this coming into Pride Month. What can you do to make the world a more inclusive space? What can we each do to make the world a more inclusive place, to make the world a more eating disorder informed place, and to make our world a kinder place for people struggling? Happy Pride Month. If you enjoyed today's episode of Piecemeal, please subscribe, rate, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Learn more about us at emilyprogram.com or find the Emily Program on social media. Piecemeal is produced by the amazing podcast team at the Emily Program. Until next time, take care. Thanks for listening.